Hey, Siona. See, a couple of you guys are showing up. I'm hoping that this works better than honors geometry. My honors geometry did not go so well. We definitely had an issue with the technology going bad, so hopefully you guys can hear me. I know that you've all had the opportunity um, to, I think, be on with other teachers if that's the case. You know that at the bottom of the screen, there's the chat that you can click on and you can talk to everyone the same way that we did before. There's also at the top of the screen, I know that hey Daniel, make sure, I don't know, make sure if the camera is on, we need to please make sure that we are not someplace where, of course, because this is recorded, you or I get in trouble. So that's why I initially had the cameras turned off. Of course, I don't know how to turn the videos off. And I can't use my hover cam and show me at the same time. If you turn and unmute yourself, that does mean I can hear you, and that way we can talk real time. If you don't unmute and want to type, you can go ahead and do that. I know that I am able to share my screen with you so that, hey Daniel, I miss you guys. I know everybody thinks that's kind of weird, but I would totally rather be right now in class and not sitting here, to be quite honest. Are you guys able to now see my screen and my paper?
Yes.
Awesome. First and foremost, if you guys can, I know that a lot of you are muted. I know Mr. Webb, you're not, thank you. I don't want to unmute you myself for fear that you got a dog barking in the background or your TV's going, but I want to hold a very quick conversation with just the few of you that are here about any problems or issues that you may be having with what has been put on Google Classroom. And I don't want to say assigned because there's only been a few things actually assigned. But I know that I keep getting emails and I keep trying to be very clear, and sometimes typing too much might get lost in the shuffle. So do any of you that are here, which not quite sure how many of that there is.
There are 9 people.
9 people, thank you, which is less than what we get on our live streams, but who knows, more than other
8.
classes. I wish I could get more of you guys to show up for class, but I can't force anything. Do you guys have any questions as to what's actually required and what's not? I know Daniel's talking. I know Mr. Webb, I've got you unmuted. Anybody else have any issues?
Hi, Haley.
Okay. Hey, Haley. All right. So just because this is being recorded, I do want to stress that the only thing right now that is required is the Knowre account stuff. That is it. There is nothing else that is required. Everything is online at that website. And I know I will most likely be taking tomorrow to again send out some emails, to make some phone calls, just to make sure everybody's where they need to be. But please make sure if you have questions, that you ask. But again, the only thing required is the no reassignments that I've loaded. I tried in one of the last Google Classroom updates to kind of bullet everything so that it was a little more clear as to what was required and what wasn't. So make sure that you guys keep checking that. You are going to have a written assignment here shortly where you will take pictures, email them to me. I will then be grading them from my computer, and I will be able to get them to you by replying to your email so that you'll see what your scores are. And you will have a test on the chapter. So when that happens, we may have a day where there isn't a live stream or a Zoom, and you will just work from home. And then if you have questions, we can email back and forth, and I can collect that. And then the next day we can go over it, and then you'll hand in your assignment within that period of time. But as of right now, the only thing you have is the no reassignment. So hopefully you're working on those few assignments that I've loaded in that website. And I did pull 3 questions from the latest assignment just so that we can kind of take a look at how those questions are being asked. And then if you have any additional questions, I'll answer them, and then we can go from there. And of course, please chime in, because again, it's finally real time. And so far today, I've had 1 person talk to me in Honors Algebra 2, even though 15 of them were there. I had 1 person talk with me in Honors Geometry, even though there were 13 of them there. And so far, I've had Haley respond via chat, and Daniel, and I think maybe Mr. Webb talk. But other than that, that's it. So
figure out how
feel
to
free.
get in
There's
questions
Mr. Webb.
to you.
You're very quiet, Jacob.
Mail isn't.
I think his
What's
audio
your
is.
email again.
Yeah, it's a
Alright.
little.
Check my email
It might be
again.
mail.
You got it.
What's your? Am I being heard? Oh, no, I haven't sent it yet. Just what is your email? Which one are you using?
Now, do we know, because I just got one from Morgan who says her Zoom won't work. Anybody got any feedback for me why that's the case? Is it just possibly because?
Go to Chrome.
Yeah.
Type in the link, and it'll say like you need to download, or it'll say download or something. You press that button, and then after you press it, there will be a little pop-up option under it that says open in browser.
Oh, and
That's
that
how I
might be
got it.
what the issue is? That she has to, that people have to copy the link?
You have to copy the link, put it in Chrome, because
Oh,
Safari won't
right,
register
support
it as
it.
a safe website. And then you have to type in the code. It'll give you the option download and open, or something along those lines. Once you get that, the little option will pop up. It'll say just open in browser, and that's what you have to do to get through the call.
Now, that's actually good, though, that you said that, because with people not knowing what to do, if they do watch the video, they can hear you say that. So that can always help.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do we got? Just here. All right. Well, then there's Morgan. She must have got something to work. All right. So it appears that we have 9 total participants. All right. So hopefully, if we can all, after about a day or 2 of other teachers trying this, we at least have the opportunity to kind of go through some of these questions. It does take a minute to then upload the video, but you will find the video of today's lesson posted at my YouTube channel so that we will be able to watch it. So I do have these 3 examples. They are 3 examples right off of the no reassignment. I will tell you that I clicked on number 5, and this is the problem number 5 gave me as the student version. And this is the number 5 that it also gave someone else in their version. So please make sure that you do notice that the problems are going to be the same. It's just different values and different numbers. So over here, what we're going to look at is we have 3 and 2, 4.5 and 3. And this problem does talk about, if this is what's given to us, what lines are parallel. So as we do this, it is the converse of what we talked about yesterday. And it's if sides that are divided by are proportional. So if sides that are divided by lines are proportional, then the lines are parallel. So it's the converse of what we looked at yesterday. Yesterday we said if the lines were parallel, it was going to divide those transversals proportionally. Today we're saying if I can see they're in proportion, then I know that the lines are parallel. So what I'm going to check for is that 3/2 matches 4.5/3. So we need to check, is 3/2 going to equal 4.5/3? So that's what I need to check. And I'm not going to worry about, is there a scale factor? I'm not going to worry about is what's the fraction. I know that 3/2 is 1.5. I know 4.5 divided by 3, notice I did it in the calculator, is also 1.5. So because they are equal, I know that these lines have to be parallel. And in my prompt on Knowre, I'm going to make sure that I put those in as capital letters, because I purposely play with these problems so that I know what you should expect. I don't just go in blind and give us notes and then hope that it's the same stuff you guys are looking at. If you put them in as lowercase letters, they're going to tell you it's wrong. You could have A, B, and E, D, and they're little lowercase letters, and it's going to tell you it's wrong. So you have to make sure that you do capitalize. At least it didn't show me that order mattered. It shouldn't. So just make sure that those are capital letters. So again, if the sides are in proportion, then the lines can be parallel. So that was one of the problems that I looked at. Another one that came up was we wanted to use this. Now it's giving us that they're parallel. And just like we saw in our notes yesterday, we want to find AY. So before I push forward, I want you to take a look at the difference. This one, we were asking if they were parallel. This one, we're being told they're parallel. So are there any questions on the first problem before I move on to the second one? Hi, Mrs. Webb.
I never make it down to the math hallway.
Well, it's just nice that you joined us.
I'm happy to do so.
She does this Zoom meeting.
It's okay. It's a wonderful face. I'm just happy that nobody can see me.
I hear ya. All right, well, keep doing that math thing. It's a foreign language. I don't really understand it.
No worries. You guys have a great day. All right. Anybody have any questions on the first problem before we move into the second one? All right. I'm going to assume because we're live and there's no 20-second annoying delay that I can move on. So this one's different because they are telling us they're parallel. So if they're parallel, I know that my sides where they're divided by the parallel lines, notice how my parallel lines, they're creating these sections. I can use the shortcut. So again, we talked about this idea that the parallel lines allow this shortcut of if the lines are parallel and divide our transversals, they're going to divide them proportionally. So I am allowed to use the shortcut as long as it's these two sides. It tells me that BY and AY should be equal to BX over CX. Again, it's the shortcut from our theorem yesterday. Now you could still split the triangles. You could still worry about the small triangle and then redraw the big triangle. It even gives us the length of the big triangle. Or we could just use the shortcut. The first thing I'm going to have to do, though, is I need to make sure that if this is 9.5 and that's 4, I need to figure out what CX is. So what's CX? Yeah, you still have to unmute yourselves. If the whole thing's 9.5 and I already have 4, what's left?
Oh.
Ooh, we got 2 that don't want to talk, but they want to chat. Yep, 5.5. Thank you.
Got that.
5.5. So we're going to subtract, remember, and that's something that we did talk about yesterday with that value for X. So it's the same idea, and that got us the 5.5. So now when I want to find AY, I can plug those values in. So BY was 6, AY we don't know, BX is 4, and CX is now 5.5. And when I do cross multiply, 5.5 times 6, I end up with 4 times our AY equals 33. And when I do divide by 4, or I end up with AY equals 8.25. And I will say, because this did start off as a decimal, that 8.25 will absolutely be acceptable when you plug that in. Now, you didn't have to do it that way, and I am going to briefly remind you that if I chose to do this exact same problem, I could have split and drawn A, C, B with that 9.5. I could have had the smaller triangle, 4, 6, and labeled this the BXY. And what I could have done is I could have found this side because I have the corresponding sides lined up. So I could have done the old version, no shortcut. So this is no shortcut, where this will always work, and done 9.5 to 4 equals who knows to 6. And when I cross multiply, I get 4 times our unknown equals 57. And when I divide by 4, we end up with 14.25. Now, the issue is 14.25 is this guy. So in order to find AY, we would have to account for the fact that 6 has to be taken away. So AY would then be our 14.25 minus 6, and that's where our 8.25 would still come from. So you would end up being able to do this both ways. One, you're just able to set up the shortcut a little bit faster. It is not a necessity, and that's something that just because this was introduced doesn't mean it has to get used for every situation. So keep that in mind. Any questions on that one? Everybody's good? Awesome. All right. I'll put that aside. And then we do have the last one. So I did try to take a problem from each section. And that way we did come back to a review problem that didn't look like something that I did. So this one is our angle bisector. Theorem with proportions. So we talked the other day that when we looked at this, the problem I gave you, or at least for the notes, is we said we have a triangle and we're going to bisect the angle. And we did say that if we have AB, X, Y, we made sure that we went in the same pattern, that A over B, bottom to top, would match X over Y, bottom to top. So in this case, this tells us that we have AB, but then it says AC. So it doesn't really match this one that well. But remember, we said as long as we don't cross through that bisector, we could have also said B over Y, side to bottom, could be the same as A over X. As long as that cross multiplication holds, and we don't set it up by crossing through this barrier here that's our bisector. So with that being said, if I have AB on this side and AC on that side as it sets up, and the only thing that I've got to fill in on the prompts for Knowre are the bottoms, what's going to match with AB? What's going to go on the bottom here for AB? And again, you can type it or you can say it. It would be great to hear some of your voices, but I understand. It's weird. I can't give you the evil eye and make you answer. We're not using the sides of our angle. Here's our sides, A and B. They list those two sides. So whatever goes on the bottom has to be these two right here. So what would go on the bottom underneath AB if I've already used these two sides? Knowing that I can't repeat those two sides, I need these two to show up in my proportion.
AB over CD.
So if I'm over here on AB, do I want to cross through?
Maybe.
So again, I see Xander, you said AC. We already have AC right here. And so we've already taken into account these two. Those are already a part of my problem. So I need something that's going to go with A to B on the bottom here, and I need something that's going to go with AC on the bottom. Because I don't want to match my top to bottom by going through.
A to, no.
You are correct. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. We're going to talk about AB to BD. That way we don't cross through. What I match here stays on this side of my bisector. I don't want to use anything over here because then my cross multiplication won't be correct. So again, AB and BD, so then AC and CD. That way I have my two sides that are the angles, or the two sides that make the angle, and now I have my two segments that make the side opposite it. So that's what we're shooting for in this problem, is we're looking to see that we have our sides that have been divided proportionally with the opposite side of our triangle. So again, the angle that has been bisected is now divided proportionally with the opposite side of the angle. So let's do one more, just because that one seemed to stress us a little bit more. I'll try to make this one up a little bit differently. Oops, dang it. So YZ is going to bisect angle XYW. So that does mean we're going to be able to put our tick marks in here. All right. So I'm going to keep my notes in front of me just so that I can kind of keep track of what we did in that problem. And I have this guy down here. And I want to make sure that really, however we set up our proportion, what we don't want to do is ever combine A and Y on the same side. And we don't want B and X. Notice how B and X are never in the same fraction. A and Y are never in the same fraction. So I don't want whatever I match up to ever cross this bisector. So if I don't want that to cross the bisector, I don't have my highlighter today. This is the one that I want to keep track of. If I already have X, Y, and XZ. So here's XY, and here's XZ. The only two segments I can choose are WY and WZ. So again, I want to make sure that I don't cross through. What's going to have to go in the bottom here in order for this to still be a true statement? I don't want to make this X ever happen. What segment would have to match? What corresponds with X, Y?
YW.
You are correct. YW would have to match. It's the side to side, just like A to B. So WY, which then only leaves us with WZ. So the side of our angle to the side of our angle, the divided segment to the divided segment. As long as we never cross side to bottom on the opposite side, side to bottom on the opposite side, our proportions should match. So again, those were questions that came up that I thought raised some red flags. Does that help?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Webb, for giving me a...
But during the
Anybody else have any questions?
I also emailed questions. I emailed you one.
Did you just email me one? Okay, let me take a look. I have to...
Ms. Kefral, I have a question too. It's not about this, it's just about test corrections.
Okay, so I did email a few people. I'm going to be very upfront and very honest. I'm trying to find my email. I've got 17 screens. I will be very honest. I'm doing my best to grade all of the late work. It is difficult, honestly, juggling, and I'm sure you guys are feeling the same thing, juggling everything. the hardest part I'm finding is teaching 4th and 5th grade, or 4th and 2nd grade. The high school stuff isn't so bad. It's trying to be told that I don't understand math by the 2nd grader that is almost infuriating. So what I did answer a couple people today is that all of your late work is here. I was able to get all of the answer keys, and my goal is to have that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out where this one goes. M inches, I'm going to assume that. My goal is to have everything in by Friday, including anything late that has just recently been emailed to me. And I've got quite a few screenshots to go through. So what's probably going to happen is by Friday, you should all see your updates. I am going to, as of Monday, start putting in if the the first Knowre assignment has not been completed. A 0 will go in, but I will also make a note that simply says, still can be handed in. I just would prefer to keep track of everything than to kind of wait till the very end. So yes, the late assignments, late work has all been accounted for. I just need to get that into the grade book. Did that answer your question?
I just don't like the way my grade is right now, and it's bothering me. So I just wanted it to be brought up.
I can't see who's talking. Is that Morgan?
Yeah.
Okay. I just now looked and you moved into the screen, at least on my end. I can understand that. I know there are some who have emailed me, and my response, very honestly, again, it might not be what we want to hear, but those people who did email me were some people who also did not do their homework on time and had asked, had of course asked me, could I hurry up? And again, that was one of those instances where it was late and it does fall to the bottom of the priority list, especially in the circumstances where there was a number of late assignments. So not necessarily your case, but it was the case in that situation for that individual. So Mr. Webb, the question that you had emailed me does say that we have HD over, I'm going to put in the tick mark, so HD is going to bisect MDR. So we have here and here. MDR is our full piece. And I have a feeling, for whatever reason, this guy that's floating in a very odd spot in your paper, I'm going to assume that he's actually there. And it kind of floats in the middle here. And I thought for a second it was a minute, but it's not. So I'm not sure why that's where it's at.
Yeah, I guess that was confusing me. And there's also 2 bisectors and just
Oh, did I
where
miss that
everything
part?
goes.
Oh, there's the other one. And then GD, thank you. Then GD is going to bisect this. That's good. Okay, that's good to know. Because then we want to find the value of M. So maybe that's not where that guy goes. All right, let's do this. So what I can do right now is I'm going to split this into 2 problems to kind of make this a little bit easier for us to see. The first thing is going to be with HD. So I'm going to redraw with just HD in the problem. And it bisected this angle. Notice I'm not even going to bring the DG in. And it does tell me from HR, they tell me that's 8. They tell me that this guy is 16. and this guy is 10. So for right now, that's all I care about. I know there's a 12. That has nothing to do with this if I can figure out how long that is. So if I use my angle bisector, 16 over x would equal 10 over 8. So I did side of the angle to the other side of the angle, divided segment to divided segment. And I end up with 10x equals 16 times 8 is 128. So that tells me x is going to be 12.8, and that's this side. So that helps.
Yeah, I got to that point. It's
Okay.
just I didn't know what to do afterwards.
So then what we're going to do is we are going to separate this now into H, D, R. This is 12. This is 12.8. And I do believe the question is determine the value of M, which it does look like is supposed to be this guy. And yesterday when we were told if the whole thing is a value and you know this piece right here is an unknown, how do I figure out what the other piece is? What operation do I have to use in order to figure out that other part?
The addition one.
It would be if I
There's
said
addition
that HG plus GR would equal HR. But if I want to put a quantity in here to represent it, who said it? Anybody know what we might want to do? We don't want to add things together. So if I knew that this was 3, how much would this guy be?
5.
5, because you did what operation?
Oh, subtraction.
Subtraction. And you took 8 minus 3 to get 5. Well, I don't have 3. I have 8 minus M. So I'm going to put 8 minus M right there. So now I have my angle that's been bisected. I have the 2 sides. I have the 2 divided segments opposite them. So I'm going to set this up again. 12 to 12.8 equals 8 minus M over M. And then we'll cross multiply. 12 times M equals that 12.8 times 8 minus M. And I'm going to have to distribute. So 12.8 times 8, we have 12M equals 102.4, because we're going to distribute, minus 12.8 times M. So we're going to add our 12.8 to the other side. We're going to add our 12.8. And we end up with 24.8 M equals 102.4. And at least right now, it tells me that. So depending upon what you type in, I have a feeling it's going to tell us, if I look back, determine the value of M. I could see if this changes to a fraction, and it does. I don't know if a fraction is what they would ask for, but it is 4 and 4/31. but I have a feeling that that decimal might be something that they're looking for. Does that help?
Yeah, I
I have
think
a
I got to this answer. One of them. It's just I wasn't sure since it was kept on going and going.
right. That decimal
The
is a little,
calculator.
yeah, the decimal is kind of scary there. What I would concentrate on is remembering, because this issue came up now twice, where we did have we're not remembering that this whole thing gives us a subtraction problem, that 8 minus m, and yesterday was something minus x. So we are going to have to look at the subtraction problem.
Okay.
Anybody else with any questions? I'm going to go back and check one more time with my emails. All right, that seems to be the last one that was emailed to me. I know that I got, again, a text message last night from a colleague saying that there were some confusion again as what was required, what wasn't required. Read. I know that sounds so ridiculous and so silly to say, but make sure you are reading what's at Google Classroom. I know I get wordy, but I am trying to be clear. The only thing right now that is required is the no reassignments that are in there. I know I have to contact people about getting on and making sure they're working. And if not, I know administration is making some phone calls and trying to stay on top of things. And I know that we're in a very odd situation right now where we can't do things face to face, except Mr. Webb and I. But make sure that you guys are staying focused and working. I know I've been, for the first time in 20 years, 23 years, I got the phone call from my doctor that says I am not allowed to leave the house because I am immunocompromised. So I am going a bit stir crazy simply walking around the block is as far as I get. So I get that this is a very odd time, but I am trying to stay focused, not only for myself, but for you guys, because I don't want you guys missing anything, at least academically, that I can help with. So for those of you that showed today, I know that's 8 of you right now. Which do you prefer? Zoom or just live stream? Seeing as our conversation isn't as vocal as I had hoped, but it does seem to be a little bit more real time. There's not that weird 20-second delay that I feel is infuriating. Do you guys like Zoom, or would you?
Zoom is okay. It's just the problems are hard. And also the question that we just worked on, I entered that answer into Knowre, and it said it was
and
wrong.
it did say it was wrong. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that was problem number 15?
Uh-huh.
So let me see if I can find. Oh, so what we can do is when I find that one, of course it logged me out. When I look at that one, I can repost the work. That way I don't have to keep you here any longer in case you have another class. And I can go ahead and post the work just to see if it's a matter of how we're supposed to have that. I'm not sure why it would be, or maybe I just didn't interpret where M should appear. All right. My problem, of course, is now the same problem, but different numbers than yours, which is now that kind of makes me mad. So for instance, can you guys see that part now? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, so do you see it's the same?
That one.
Yeah, it's the same question, just different numbers. So what I'll do is I'll work this one out and I will post it. And I think if you look, it does appear that the M is in your problem where it should be. Did you try 12.8 by chance?
12.8 as one of my answers.
Yeah, just try 12.8.
Um,
The M inches is
okay.
floating in a weird spot in your screenshot. So that's what I'm curious.
Nope, it took me to walk me through.
Okay. Well, try that and I'll work it out again just to see what it's going to give me as a walkthrough. And then we can always revisit it again. And if not, I am certain we can always set up another chat later if need be.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there other questions, ladies and gentlemen? I'm kind of curious why that didn't work out as nicely as it should have. So if not, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work on Mr. Webb's question again and see what happens when I work on Knowre. And we will come back, if not tomorrow, Friday for sure. I will determine whether we Zoom or we go live stream, but you can always check that in Google Classroom. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day. It's sunny outside, so go get some fresh air, but please stay safe and be smart. And I will talk to all of you guys tomorrow. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to work on that, Mr.
Bye.
Webb. Bye.
Hopefully it works some way, somehow.
I know. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this a different way and see if I can work myself backwards. So I'll get back to you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.